Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Odinic School of Mysteries. My name is Bear. Thank you for coming. So, I wanted to answer the question, and I think some people have had some questions about this. What is the religious affiliation of the Odinic School of Mysteries? Particularly, people want to know whether or not we're an ASSATRU organization. And for those of you who don't know, ASSATRU is the Indo-European religion. It's the Thor, Odin tier. It's like the worship and adoration and the religion of those gods from typically Northern Europe, often called the Germanic religions. And that's a really good question because it's confusing. Right. The Odinic School of Mysteries, I would say that the all mystery schools, they're based on a dying god myth, without exception. They're always based on a dying god myth. The mysteries of Christ, of Jesus, is based on his dying god myth. The mysteries of Lucius was the death and resurrection of Lucius. Ours is Odin, is based on the mysteries of Odin. And so people want to know whether or not we are an organization that is primarily ASSATRU in nature. And I have to be pretty careful with this because two things can be true at the same time. And I don't want to mislead people. So the short answer would be no. The short answer is no, we're not an ASSATRU organization. And the reason behind that, and not that, I mean, ASSATRU is a pretty loose word. It's an umbrella that encompasses a lot of things. One of the things that tends to happen with these things, and if you've spent any time on heathen message boards, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or otherwise, people get very religious. And folks get in such a hurry to abandon Western Christianized ideas that they end up falling into the exact same traps that Christian ideologies do, such as being subject to dogma. One of the things that used to drive me crazy was I would say something or someone else would say something that they're thinking about, and the message board would just erupt, and people would say, "Why are you telling us this? This is what did they call it? They called it a unverified personal gnosis. This is an unverified personal gnosis. You shouldn't say it here." And that is such a dangerous way of looking at things. The demonization of any kind of thought outside of the conformity is a really dangerous thing. The mysteries are primarily and entirely meant to serve the truth and to gain wisdom. That is their goal, and that is what we do. I believe it is eminently foolish and dumb. We'll just say the word. We'll say it's dumb to think that a god and a being as big as Odin would only concern himself with a small group of people in Northern Europe between the years 50 BC and 500 AD. Right? Or maybe it was 1500 AD. It's really silly to think that. So it's you got to be really careful. So I would say we're not an ASSATRU organization because we don't stick to the Norse when we come to finding truth. We look all over the place. And I think any person worth his salt would understand that Odin wouldn't either. He is okay, let's back up a little bit. All mystery schools are based on a dying god myth. All of them are, without exception. The Egyptian mysteries were concerned with the death and resurrection of Horus, the death and resurrection of Osiris. You have the mysteries of Bacchus. You have the mysteries of Jesus. You have the mysteries of Eleusis, which were huge in Greece. The Eleusinians were big, a big mystery school. They're all based on a dying god myth. So I guess if you had to pin it down, you could say that the Odinic School of Mysteries is an Odinist organization, in the sense that our dying god myth that we base all of our doctrine off of, and it's kind of the sounding board for how we gain wisdom and progress through the mysteries, is based on the dying god myths of Odin. So in that sense, I would say that it'd be more accurate to say that we're an Odinist organization. The thing of it is, though, Odin was a wisdom god. People make the mistake a lot that he's a war god, and that's just not the case. Odin's primary motivation in life was always to gain wisdom, without exception. A lot of the war aspects are more of when he does engage in war, they're always typically a means to some other end. Typically Ragnarok. He's not just making war because he likes punching things. Usually it's war because there's something big coming and he wants to prepare for it, as any wise person would do. So the fact that we're an Odinist organization does not necessarily mean that we don't look around and get wisdom wherever we can find it, which is, let's be honest, is exactly what Odin did. It would be pretty foolish to say that he wouldn't do that if he thought that some other group of people had some sort of wisdom that he didn't have. He would absolutely and totally go over there and look for it. It's silly to think otherwise. So, the people have one of the reasons people have a hard time with the mysteries and they don't understand them is a lot of it is to do with the fact that in order to really get anything out of the mysteries, you can't want to be right. People want to win arguments. People aren't willing to be wrong. They don't know how to have doubts. And being able to have a doubt is a really important skill to have. And people are afraid of having doubts. One of the first things when I first joined the mystery school, actually no, it was before I even joined. It was when I first met my teacher. One of the first things he said was, "Are you willing to be wrong? And are you willing to be wrong as long as it takes?" The only way to ever know the truth is to be willing to be wrong. Is to be willing to listen to people who you disagree with, right? Are you willing to hear hard information? The truth, my friends, is not something you could wrap your mind around. It's bigger than we are. And as something that is bigger than we are, more than likely we're going to be wrong. Right? The truth isn't going to agree with us. There's an old Baptist joke. The old Baptist joke is that God always agrees with the preacher. And, really what that means is that we'll say that if the preacher wants to drive a Prius, then therefore God believes that you should drive a Prius. We don't hold to that view. We don't hold to any strict authority. It's and that's the I don't know how to even explain it. So, because let me get a drink of coffee. The truth is, whatever the divine really is, whatever that actually is, regardless of what name it goes by, it's gonna be bigger than whatever box you attempt to put over it. It just is. Christianity, one of my biggest critiques of Christianity is they do that all the time. They have this infinite God in their mind, who's all powerful, all expansive, consumes everything, but he is easily understandable and has these very specific wills and wants that somehow conform to what I want. Right. So people approach the mysteries thinking that they're going to be like religions. They approach the mysteries and they think that there's going to be a very strict belief structure, that there is specific doctrine that must be said, that you are required to give a statement of faith, that there's I'm struggling to put this into words, and I apologize. I think the word I'm looking for is you can't get into this very far without becoming a bit of an anarchist. And I use that word very carefully because I know the way that it has become used in our modern parlance. So the word "an" means no or against. Archon is an old Greek word which means ruler. So an anarchist just means no rulers. What people do, however, is you get these groups of people who say, okay, I'm an anarchist, and so that gives me the right to destroy your property. That gives me the right to harm you and your family. That gives me the right to do whatever I want. You get these people who call themselves anarchists, but are really socialists in nature. Or they're people who hate life and want to just watch the world burn. Anarchy doesn't mean no rules, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't mean no rules, it means no rulers. No rulers, no slaves, as my hero Mark Passio would say. And so when you join the mysteries, people have it in their heads because of Hollywood or because of some of these other organizations out there that there is a strict hierarchy, that there's very specific doctrines you have to follow, and that it's this well-oiled machine like that, and that's not necessarily how they work, at least not anymore. And maybe this is just a product of the fact that the Mercer School I'm a part of is very small, and so there's not really a lot of need for a very strict striation of things. I know there's things that we don't teach until someone gets to a certain level, and that is not necessarily for secrecy reasons. It's more to do with either the person hasn't been tested enough to know whether they're morally capable of handling it, or whether the person can't understand it yet. The most of what we teach here in the Odinic School of Mysteries, and really all that I'm allowed to teach here in the Odinic School of Mysteries, it's the, and I'll put it up here so you can see it. It's the underworld section of the Yggdrasil tree. This is the first 3 steps of Odin. So I'm allowed to get people up to the point. I'm allowed to set people free, basically. I'm allowed to get them past the gates of the underworld so that they're free and their mind is unified. But I can't really take them any further, because when you go further than that, the rule is they have to be a tested and moral person. Like, I can't teach people how to manifest stuff and control things and that kind of thing, because it's just too dangerous, right? I don't want to give people that power if they're going to be bad people. If you want to do that, join the Church of Satan. If you want to control people, join the Church of Satan. They're more than happy to have you. But we're not like that, and we don't do that. So no, we're not an ASSATRU organization. You could say that we're an Odinist organization. That's pushing it a little bit. You could say that we're a heathen organization. But as far as actually being an ASSATRU organization, it's just, ASSATRU is just too religious. Just too rigid. There's not enough room for independent thought. You have to, if you want to be ASSATRU, you kind of have to toe the party line. The party line that's arbitrarily set by people on message boards. And that's not, I admit it being a little hyperbolic here. I mean, it's not, you could just be whatever you want to be. There's no specific dogma that says that you have to be this in order to be ASSATRU. So I guess if you want, you could call us an ASSATRU organization. However, our focus is is both on the deity of Odin and his dying god myth, and the service of truth more broadly. So they're kind of two things at once, which is why we don't only just talk about Norse stuff. We don't just talk about Odin all the time. We talk about, like last week, we talked about the Gnostics and Pythagoras. We've talked about the mind and how the mind works. We've talked about just that kind of thing. Another question that I've been asked quite a bit is, how does someone join our mystery school? And that's kind of a tough one, because it happens in a number of ways. And that's I get it. It's a natural question for people to ask. They're curious. They don't know how it happens. So it's important to start off by saying, and I've said this before, is that it is very difficult to get into a mystery school. Almost nobody makes it. And that's unfortunate that our society has gotten to the point where it is that difficult to find somebody. So the candidates that are considered. So I should start off by saying the people who are being considered don't usually know that they're being considered. It's never told to them. They don't know that they're being discussed as a possible initiate. So you'll never be told until you're officially asked. And then being officially asked sets in a series of events. The kind of people who are typically considered are people who are humble. It's like all the things we just talked about. There's people who are willing to be wrong, who want to serve the truth at all costs, who are curious and who are willing to do the work, and that is a major portion of it. They're people who are willing to do the necessary work. And they're people who don't have an ego. And you would be surprised on how few people there are in the world who are like that. People have egos. People, they want to win arguments. People, they want to be right. People are lazy. They don't want to do the work to get to where they need to be. I don't even remember who it was. Someone I was talking to was saying how much fun it would be to be like Satguru. For those of you who don't know, Satguru, it sounds like sad, like you're crying, but it's an Indian word. It's like Sadhguru, something like that. He's a very famous guru, and he travels the world, goes on TV and stuff, and talks about yoga and the philosophy of Eastern religion and that kind of stuff. And he was saying, it'd be so much fun to be like Satguru and be able to go around and just teach people. And my first thought was, it would be really convenient to be able to do that without doing any of the work. And he was like, yeah, you're right. That's really what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to be able to have all the goodies without having to do any of the work first. And so there's very few people who are like that. And you have to get to know someone pretty well before you begin to really get to know them to the point where you can where it becomes clear that they're someone who's interested in learning and practicing and that kind of thing. So at that point, so we'll say that you're someone who you've caught the school's attention. You're someone who is doing all those things. You're asking good questions. You're following through. You're doing the work. You're someone who's humble. You're willing to learn. And then usually you're asked to become what's called an affiliate. Either it's called an affiliate or it's called a pledge, or there's not even really an official name for it. Let's just be honest. You're just someone who's being considered. And we'll say, at that point, usually if you get to that point, you're aware that me or whoever it is you're talking to is a part of a mystery school to begin with. Right? It's not secret in the sense that it's not a secret society where you're hush-hush about the people you're with. It's... You just don't tell just people willy-nilly. You tell people as they're ready to know, I guess you would say. I have to say, okay, we're After that, you would say that, okay, we've considered you, and I think you might be a good fit. Do you want to become an affiliate? Do you want to hang out with us and stuff? And if the person says yes, then at that point it starts about a 2-year clock. 1 or 2 years is usually what it takes. And we start at that point. You start being given tasks to complete. There are tasks that do 2 things at once. One, they're intentionally boring and annoying to do, because we want to see if you're serious. But they're not just useless tasks. They're meant to prepare your mind to be given the stuff, given the mysteries. And so they're things like spending an hour a day coloring. They're things by spending an hour a day staring at a pencil and focusing on the pencil. There are things like very rigorous meditation practices, spending a lot of time on walks, the saying mantras over and over and over again, keeping detailed journal entries, these sorts of things. And the reason that we do that, again, is so that we understand that you're someone who's serious about it. You're not just someone who likes the idea of joining the mysteries, being a part of a mystery school. You're someone who's actually going to do the work and who wants to be there. Also, during this time, it's meant so you kind of get to know everybody. We want to see if you're a moral person. We're definitely not going to give you the mysteries if you're a dick. We don't want to give the mysteries to people who are going to go take it and immediately try and use it to mind control people and they give me the money, that kind of thing. So there's a kind of a 1 to 2 year process where that is undergone. And a lot of people don't make it. They don't. And at that point, again, either we don't know, we never tell them. It's not typically told. So let me try that again. We don't typically tell them if they've made it. Right. Usually there's a meeting. We say, okay, is this person, do we think they're ready? They've been at this for a while. They've been doing the work. Should we initiate them? And then it's like, okay, yeah, I think maybe we should. And the first, so then there's kind of a get together usually, and the person's asked a few questions, and if they answer those to the questioner's satisfaction, then that usually happens on a Wednesday, and which is Odin's day, and then that starts a 9-day clock on the 9th day, because there's 9 steps of Odin. 9 is Odin's number. That lands on a Friday, and that Friday we do the initiation ritual. And Friday is Freya's day, or Frigg's day. And she's the mother. So you're being birthed into, symbolically, you're being birthed into a new life and into the mysteries, which is why it's done in that way. And that's how people are chosen. So, and we do it this way on purpose. I'm gonna wrap this up. I know this isn't really a good. I know this feels a little bit rambly and it's just me talking, but there's just a few things that people have asked, and I figured this would be a good day for it. And the reason that is not typically told to people that they're being considered is because we don't want a performance. We want people to go about it on their own, under their own steam, to see if they're really someone who really wants it. We want to see their true character. And And that's really important to us. So it's kind of like winning the lottery, I guess. I mean, you have to catch someone's attention who's in it. You don't know you're being groomed for it. And then when you do actually get in it, then there's still another 2 years of rigorous work you have to do in order to be admitted. And the bar for admission is really high. Is very high. And it's very hard for people to get in. And it should not be as difficult as it is. I'm not saying that the standards of the mystery school is too high. I'm saying that what we're asking of people shouldn't be that difficult, in my opinion. People shouldn't be so married to their egos that they can't get in. That shouldn't be that big of a problem. But it is. People should take the stuff seriously enough that they're willing to do work on a regular basis. But people don't. And so, the doors of the mysteries remain empty. Even in Masonry, Masonry isn't what it used to be. By its members' own admission, it's a boys' club. It's a place you join to network and meet people and have something to do on the weekends. Getting your 33rd degree isn't what it used to mean. There are people who have their 33rd degree Masonry badge, ring, or whatever, who don't know esoteric Freemasonry. It's just another church. They don't know esoteric Freemasonry. The book by Albert Pike, this guy, Morals and Dogma, used to be required reading for Masons, and it's not anymore. They don't make you read it anymore. They're just the mystery school systems have failed. People, they like the idea of being in the know. They think it sounds cool. Movies like National Treasure have made people think, it has done a lot to push that, being in the know and knowing all the secrets and the symbols and being in a secret society and oh, that's really cool, but it's not like that. It's not. It's sitting down and doing a lot of homework. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of introspection. There is no such thing as a this means that scenario when it comes to symbol reading. One of there's a initiate we have who just passed the doors of the underworld, and that's a big deal. And you're given a key, and a key is basically a symbol that's written in a phrase. And it probably took him. So he got in. It probably took him about 2 to 3 years of solid. I think it took him about 3 years of solid, rigorous work. From the time he got the key to the time he actually passed the doors of the underworld, Again, I'll put it up, the graph up here so you can see it. It's also available for download on my website, which we now have. It took them a while. It took them almost a year, I would say, to pass the key and to open the door. So, you know, it's real work that has to be done. And by the time you've made it, by the time you've gotten into the Odinic school, well, I said the Odinic school. By the time you've gotten into the mystery school, you've earned it. Right? You've earned it. It is a real accomplishment. And by the time you've passed the doors of the underworld, it's a huge accomplishment, and it's a really big deal. And it shouldn't be downplayed. So there's a lot of real work to be had. So again, you know, it's not a ASSATRU organization. We don't play those kinds of games. So I know this is kind of an unconventional video, but there's just a few things that people were asking, and I thought it would be good to talk about. So people they want to join, they want to be a part, but you know, there's very specific people that we're looking for, and you don't have, you know, and what's good about like this YouTube channel is that this is a good way, I guess you could say it's a much easier route excuse me, to learning the things you need to learn without the commitment. Joining the mystery school is a huge commitment. And it's for people who take it very seriously. For some students, it becomes a full-time job. That's why a lot of people, they don't have big careers. They work at a gas station or bag groceries or something like that. They do that so that they could devote more time and study to these things. And that's a real thing. It's a real thing that people do. So, doing this is much easier. Let's just be honest. You know, learn what you need to learn. You go to the website and look at the reading list, read at your leisure. But it's not an easy road. You know, it was said in the Bible, I think, and Thoth also said it. Hermes also said it, that few people find the gate. The gate is narrow. It's hard to find, and those who do find it, even fewer still are willing to climb the road to immortality. That there's only just a few people in a generation that actually make it. So it can't be understated. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. The first week of every month, we do a Q&A video. If you are someone who wants to have your question answered formally on a Q&A, please feel free to ask a question and just indicate it's for the Q&A down below. If you want to ask a question more in a more general way, I will respond to you. Also, I've noticed this thing where in my notifications it tells me someone has commented, but then when I click on it to answer it, there's nothing there. So I don't know enough about technology to know what's going on. I try my best to respond to everyone, but something is going on and I don't know what. So if I'm ignoring you, it's not on purpose. I don't ignore people. So I'm glad. I'm glad you're all here. And I'm gonna bug out. We'll have some lunch, I think. So, all right. I love y'all. And oh, freaking subscribe if you haven't, please. Subscribe so YouTube knows that we're awesome. All right. Cool. Bye. Bye.